Prison, a place meant to hold society's most dangerous individuals, where justice is served and the law reigns supreme. But what happens when the very system designed to uphold justice becomes the face of cruelty? What if the police, the people we trust to protect us, are the ones who commit a brutal, unimaginable crime, burning a prisoner alive inside a jail cell? This isn't a movie plot. This isn't a fictional horror story. This is real. The incident didn't happen on a remote highway, deep in the woods, or during a riot. It happened in a high-security prison, under heavy surveillance, surrounded by guards, cameras, and walls meant to contain danger, not create it. Yet somehow, a prisoner was set on fire and left to die in agony. And the most chilling part? All evidence points to the very officers tasked with maintaining order. Flames devoured a man's body while his screams echoed through the cold concrete walls of his cell. The smell of burning flesh, the sound of footsteps retreating, and the silence that followed. It all points to something far darker than a tragic accident. Was this man guilty of something so severe that he deserved such a horrifying fate? Or was this an abuse of power, a message sent, a grudge settled, or a cruel execution masked as justice? Initially, prison officials called it an unfortunate fire, a freak accident. But soon, cracks began to show in their story. Inmates began to talk. A few brave insiders leaked details, and when surveillance footage emerged, it shattered the official narrative. This wasn't an accident. This was a calculated, deliberate act, and those responsible wore the very uniforms that symbolize law and order. Today, we unravel the layers of this disturbing case. Who was the prisoner? What led to this horrifying event? Who were the officers involved? And more importantly, how did they believe they could get away with it? This story isn't just about one man's death. It's about a system that allowed it to happen. It's about power, silence, corruption, and the terrifying truth hiding behind prison walls. This is the story of a man burned alive, by the very hands meant to protect and serve, before the fire, before the screams, before the charred remains shocked an entire nation. There was a man, a prisoner. But who was he? His name was Jamal Harris, a 29-year-old man from a rough neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. Jamal had a troubled past, not unlike many young men growing up in environments surrounded by poverty, gang violence, and a broken justice system. He was arrested 3 years ago for armed robbery. According to court records, Jamal had held up a convenience store with a fake gun. No one was injured, and the store owner later admitted Jamal looked scared and desperate, not violent. During his trial, Jamal's defense argued that he was unemployed, struggling to take care of his younger sister after their mother died, and had turned to crime out of desperation. Despite a plea for leniency, he was sentenced to 7 years in prison. His criminal record wasn't long: one prior arrest for marijuana possession and no known history of violence. Inside prison, Jamal kept to himself. Multiple inmates later reported that he avoided gang affiliations and stayed out of trouble. He was quiet, often seen reading books or writing in a notebook. Some guards described him as respectful and low risk, but there were rumors, whispers about a particular officer Jamal didn't get along with. Officer Derek Cole, a correctional officer known for his aggressive behavior and history of inmate complaints. Reports suggest that Jamal had filed a formal complaint against Officer Cole just 2 months before his death. The complaint, according to leaked documents, accused Cole of physical assault and threats. It was quietly dismissed. That complaint might have sealed Jamal's fate. Inmates who were housed near Jamal's cell recall tension in the days leading up to the fire. They say Jamal looked nervous, often checking over his shoulder. He had reportedly told one inmate, "They're trying to make me disappear." No one knew exactly what he meant until the night his cell went up in flames. Jamal Harris was not a perfect man, but he wasn't a monster. He was a man who made a mistake, paid for it, and hoped to make it out to a better life. Instead, he met a death more brutal than his worst crime. And now, the world is asking, was it justice or murder? It was just past midnight on a quiet Tuesday when the alarm went off inside Block C of the Stonewall Correctional Facility. Smoke was seen pouring out of Cell 17, the solitary confinement unit where Jamal Harris had been moved only 24 hours earlier. At first, guards rushed toward the scene, but according to witnesses, something wasn't right. The response was slow, almost hesitant, and by the time the fire was put out, Jamal's body was beyond recognition. But what really happened that night? CCTV footage, some of which later leaked to the press, shows a chilling timeline. At 11:47 p.m., two officers, Derek Cole and Ricky Marshall, are seen entering the hallway outside Jamal's cell. One of them appears to be carrying a container. No one else is seen entering or leaving the block for the next 15 minutes. At 12:03 a.m., a faint glow begins to appear from under the cell door. 2 minutes later, smoke. By 12:06 a.m., the fire alarm finally triggers. But it takes another 5 minutes before any serious attempt to extinguish the fire is made. One guard, who later became a whistleblower, claimed that Officer Cole had told the team to stand down, saying it was just a trash fire. That delay would prove fatal. According to internal reports and inmate testimonies, screams could be heard from Cell 17 for at least 3 minutes before they stopped. One inmate, housed 2 cells down, stated, "He was banging on the door, yelling for help, then it went quiet. Dead quiet." Further investigation revealed burn patterns consistent with an accelerant, most likely lighter fluid or gasoline. A charred plastic bottle cap was recovered near the door, but the most damning evidence came from inside sources. A prison janitor confessed he saw Officer Marshall disposing of a melted container in the staff trash later that night. Autopsy results confirmed that Jamal was alive when the fire started. He had third-degree burns on over 80% of his body and died of smoke inhalation and internal burns. The prison tried to spin the story as an electrical fire, but the timeline, the footage, and the witnesses told a different tale. This wasn't an accident, it was an execution, and the people responsible wore the very badges that swore to uphold the law. In the hours following Jamal Harris's horrific death, prison officials quickly moved to control the narrative. An official statement was released by Stonewall Correctional Facility, calling the incident a tragic electrical fire caused by faulty wiring in the solitary confinement wing. They claimed Jamal was trapped inside before anyone could reach him, and that staff had done everything possible to save him. But those closest to the scene knew better. Several guards privately raised questions about the delayed response and the smell of accelerant in the hallway. Yet, internally, staff were warned not to speak to the media. One guard later told reporters, "We were told to keep quiet or risk our jobs." Maintenance logs, which should have shown fire inspections or electrical issues, mysteriously went missing. Surveillance footage was under review for weeks and was almost withheld entirely until a leaked clip surfaced online. The turning point came when a whistleblower inside the prison contacted a local journalist anonymously. The leaked information included internal memos, audio recordings of guards discussing the incident, and snippets of the surveillance video showing officers near the cell minutes before the fire. The footage went viral, and the public outcry was immediate. Soon, national media outlets picked up the story. Pressure mounted. Hashtags like #JusticeForJamal trended on social media. Civil rights groups, including the ACLU and Human Rights Watch, issued statements demanding a full investigation. Protesters gathered outside the prison gates, demanding accountability and transparency. Under intense public scrutiny, the state was forced to act. An independent investigation task force was formed, including forensic experts, legal observers, and former corrections officials. They found overwhelming inconsistencies in the prison's version of events. The fire's origin point did not match the electrical claim. The burn pattern inside the cell indicated the use of an accelerant. And perhaps most damning, Officer Derek Cole had been the subject of at least 7 previous complaints of excessive force, all of which had been quietly dismissed or ignored. As evidence piled up, the cover-up began to collapse. What started as a contained incident behind concrete walls became a national scandal. The focus shifted from Jamal Harris, the prisoner, to the system that tried to bury the truth along with his body. And now, the public wanted justice, not just for Jamal, but for every silenced voice behind bars. As the truth about Jamal Harris's death began to surface, the public reaction was immediate and explosive. What began as a local tragedy quickly transformed into a nationwide movement for justice. People from all walks of life, activists, lawyers, students, and even former inmates, came together under one collective cry: justice for Jamal. Protests erupted outside Stonewall Correctional Facility, with hundreds of people demanding accountability. Candlelight vigils were held across major cities, where Jamal's story was shared alongside those of other prisoners who had allegedly suffered abuse behind bars. His face appeared on posters, murals, and online campaigns, becoming a symbol of injustice in the American prison system. Social media platforms lit up with outrage. The hashtag #Justice for Jamal trended globally within 48 hours of the leaked footage going viral. Influencers, celebrities, and civil rights leaders amplified the cause, forcing mainstream news outlets to cover the case in depth. Memes, videos, and first-hand inmate accounts flooded timelines, further exposing the corrupt culture that had festered for years inside Stonewall Prison. Under growing pressure, state officials could no longer remain silent. The governor of the state publicly condemned the incident and ordered a full criminal investigation into both the death and the attempted cover-up. Within days, officers Derek Cole and Ricky Marshall were placed on administrative leave, and shortly after, both were arrested and charged with second-degree murder, conspiracy, and destruction of evidence. The trial gripped the nation. During court proceedings, the prosecution laid out a compelling case: motive, opportunity, and clear evidence of tampering. Multiple witnesses, including prison staff and inmates, testified about the toxic culture inside the facility. The defense argued it was a tragic misunderstanding, but the jury didn't buy it. After a month-long trial, both officers were found guilty on all major charges. Officer Cole was sentenced to 40 years in prison, while Officer Marshall received 30 years. In response to public demand, the Department of Corrections announced a wide-ranging reform initiative, including the installation of body cameras in all high-security blocks and the creation of an independent oversight board to monitor inmate complaints. Jamal Harris didn't live to see the justice he deserved, but his death sparked a reckoning. A single fire lit in one prison cell ignited a nationwide movement, proving that even behind concrete walls, the truth can rise, and so can the people.